us a panel discussion around building metaverse-ready tech stack, infra, and network by Neil Dayal of Rogers. Hello, Neil. Nice to see you again. Mike Roy of Unity Technologies, and Robin, I am going to get this name wrong, Shozik of Ericsson, and moderated by Mansur Khan of Wave Labs. If you could make your way up, please. Thank you.
Okay. Well, that was a tough act to follow. I think the first two presentations gave us a lot of head start, a lot of details. That will be a tough act to follow. But what we intend to do in this panel is try and take a more interactive, iterative version, and make sure the diverse audience that we have here across technologists, entrepreneurs, startups, students. They seep their way into the whole world of metaverse and 5G. We'll start with the quick introductions of the panel here, and then the format that I propose is that we can go through a common question that all of us can answer, then specific question to each of you, and then we can open it up for some Q&A to the audience as well. Quick round of introductions. I'll start with myself. My name is Mansoor, CEO of Wave Labs. I'm here to support Khader in his initiative.
Hi, everybody. Neil Dayal. I'm with Rogers Communications. Super happy to be here today and participating on this great panel.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Robin Kaushik from Ericsson. Ericsson has been providing communication for the last 130 plus years and about 70 years in Canada.
I'm Mike Gray with Unity Technologies. You may not know who we are, but you've seen stuff that's been developed in our platform, guaranteed.
Wonderful. So let me start with something I came here to learn, right? I came here to learn. Metaverse means different for different people. And I thought it's a good idea to start the thing from ground zero. Towards that, I'd like to ask each of you, in your world and from your backgrounds that you come from, define metaverse for us. And also, when you do that, give it the flavor of the backgrounds that you come from a network, from infrastructure, from the applications perspective, so that the diverse audience can sink their teeth into the concept.
Okay, that feels like the toughest question of the day, actually, is defining the metaverse. So I'm gonna do my best, but ultimately, I mean, just from a simplistic perspective, the way we think about it is really about sort of immersive 3D collaborative web experiences. And so why that's important for somebody like a Rogers is because, as we've heard from the Sienna folks and others, is that it's really going to be about enabling, low latency, real-time applications. And so we want to make sure that we're working with the right partners and architecting a network that can deliver some of those immersive experiences and those real collaborative experiences. So that's sort of the role that Rogers plays in that ecosystem.
Thanks, Neil. I think from an infrastructure point of view, when we saw about Web 1, Web 2, Web 3, I was just thinking 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G. It's evolved the pretty same way. From an infrastructure point of view, it's the ability to convert physical things. For example, I have a set of flowers at my desk in office, and I want the same in my metaverse workspace. How can I scan it, transmit it, import it into my metaverse so that I have the same experience which I have in the physical world in the metaverse world? So I think that's a lot of compute, that's a lot of signaling, there's a lot of transmission. That's the key thing. How do we enable these? The future generations of telecom do talk about scent and taste, which we saw earlier also. How do we enable that?
For me, I don't know if the metaverse is the right term. I'm already sick of it, and you can tell investors are sick of it if you look at the company formerly known as Facebook, how they're doing in the market, because everybody has a different definition of what they think it is and what it's going to be. But for me, reality, what it is a whole bunch of tech coming together: 5G, machine learning, AI, XR, edge computing, all this stuff is coming together. Web 3.0 is just a whole bunch of tech that's coming together to create a new opportunity for economies. And this new economy is a real-time economy. We're in an on-demand economy today. I think everybody understands Amazon, Netflix, and Uber. We're heading to a real-time economy. And that's really what the metaverse is in essence. And it's democratizing the ability to create and the ability to publish. So everybody has the opportunity to create their own stories, create their own experience, create whatever they want to create, and then deploy it across any platform. You can almost look at TikTok as kind of one of those democratization of creation right now. I can create videos in TikTok that 10 years ago would have taken a studio months to create in a matter of minutes. But the challenge is that's passive. It's not interactive. I'm not actually participating in the story itself. As we start to head to this next economy, the metaverse or whatever you want to call it, we're all going to be able to interact and participate with it as well. And it's not going to be stuck on one platform. I'm not going to be stuck on an app. I'm going to be able to access it. It's just going to be ubiquitous. It's just going to be around us all the time. And I'm guessing the term metaverse probably disappears just like the World Wide Web did. It'll just be like a name from the past. It doesn't really explain what it is.
Oh, thank you so much for that. I think those are as different views of the metaverse as we could get today. I've been hearing some of the panelists that I've participated in the last few weeks as well. The definition that I was able to relate and resonate, and probably many of the people who are not from the technology world can relate to it, is the metaverse is the 3D version of the internet. Hopefully that gives a perspective of all the opportunities that you saw in the early days of the internet. Imagine them in 3 dimension, and those opportunities exist for everybody. I think that's probably the definition that I could relate to the most from a layman perspective, but I think what it provided depth is across the network, service providers, and the applications.
One other thing, to me, is actually the merging of the physical world and the virtual world together. So if I'm going to be in VR, say in Fortnite or in Meta's world on Oculus, that's just a location. It's like a website in essence. The entire web is something completely different. But we're combining like the physical. I'm going to be outside. I'm going to get invisible information to me. It's almost like a fifth dimension, this digital dimension that's going to be made available to everybody. So think of it as just the blending of the virtual and physical worlds. That's really what it is. And no matter how you consume it, that's all it is.
Yeah, I think the only thing else I would add to that is just the fact that there's some collaboration or some kind of interaction with other people in that environment, and I think that's one of the expectations. And I think, again, that's why I think 5G is very important in that, is that it's not just a sort of a streaming, asynchronous experience. It's actually very synchronized, and I think you're going to be wanting to go to these destinations, whether it's Horizon Worlds or whether it's Fortnite or wherever. You're going to be wanting to do that in a much more social context.
Yeah, and just to add 2 cents to that, if you want to make my earlier definition a little bit more technical, it's the 3D version of the internet, but also decentralized. If you want to dig into that, I think a lot of these things will come into play. Great, thank you so much. I'll probably go into specific questions for each of you. Mike, from an applications perspective, given that there are students here, there are entrepreneurs here, and even technologists here, metaverse, Web 3.0 that we hear in the past, synonymous, different? Can you throw some light on, from a tech skilling perspective, what do students of the future, entrepreneurs of the future need to sink in from an application-centric background?
So I look at Web 3.0 as kind of a technology in essence that's allowing you to do the 3D web, and it'll be part of the metaverse. But there's going to be a lot of other things that come along with the metaverse, and that's the ability to interact and even have my own virtual digital twin, right? My virtual digital twin will exist in the Web 3.0, but I still have the physical me that I'm going out. I want to connect with people. I still want to be a human And I think what's really interesting about this is it's going to allow people to get up from their VR headsets, their PCs, their phone from looking like this and get back into the real world and experience the real world in an augmented and a different way.
Wonderful. Neil, maybe the next one is to you. This conference is mostly metaverse and 5G. There already talks about 6G being formed. What does this mean for an operator, the metaverse, from a network transformation perspective? Because I remember we talked about latency, speed, interacting in real time. So what it essentially mean from an operator to the consumer?
Well, I think that's a great question. And I think, as Robin sort of said, we've seen the evolution of Gs and how that's sort of corresponded with kind of where we are from an application perspective and from a web perspective. And, I think 4G was really about sort of video, right? And I think that's where we started to see the proliferation of video on devices like YouTube, Netflix, TikTok, Instagram. All of these really kind of, were an outcome of the fact that the networks were able to enable that. And I think now what we're really thinking about with 5G, and I do think it's a little bit premature on the 6G piece, just because I think we haven't really touched on much of the potential around 5G. And so I think, what we're doing is we're working a lot across the ecosystem. I mean, I'm super glad Mike and Robin are here because Ericsson and Unity are really important partners for us. But what we're starting to do is, experiment with different types of use cases, and those are B2B and B2C, and really understanding where we need to augment the network and how we need to architect it. So whether it's around making sure we have the right spectrum assets, and so we've been very active in acquiring, mid-band spectrum that we can deploy across the country. In fact, Rogers has sort of the largest tranche of spectrum assets in that band. Or whether it's about partnering with, the Ericssons of the world and making sure we have the right infrastructure, whether it's working with hyperscalers and thinking about public cloud, edge cloud, where do we need to be thinking about deploying some of those compute capabilities into our network so that we can start to actually deliver some of these low latency applications. All of that work is really underway right now, and we're doing it across a number of different partners and programs so that we can be sure that as more and more people start to adopt these sort of decentralized Web 3.0 type of applications, our network is there prepared to sort of deliver on that.
And do you think both the mobile handsets and the network is today ready to embrace a metaverse world, or they need some distance to go?
I think we're able to support the applications right now fairly well, to be quite honest. I think that's one reason why we've actually seen not as much of a push on the edge computing side from some of the hyperscalers globally. Like, we've seen a lot of hype around that, but we haven't quite yet seen the demand side. So I think technically we're capable of supporting a lot of these applications. The network is already doing that. Canada, despite what some people may have heard or said, we've got very advanced LTE networks. And so the latency and the throughput that you see on the LTE side are actually pretty damn good when you compare them globally. And again, because we've been able to deploy some of these 5G assets as well around some of the spectrum and sort of a lot of virtualizing of the functions, again, we're able to deliver some pretty impressive performance. But as this scales and there's more and more users adopting this technology, we're gonna need to be thinking about pushing more compute to the edge, evolution of handset and chipsets, et cetera.
I want to explain that 5G is absolutely necessary to move the metaverse forward. Right now, the millions and billions of devices that we have connected is increased 100-fold, 1,000-fold. I'm going to have sensors on everything, everywhere I go. I might go into Starbucks and it's going to be attached. I'm going to buy coffee. I'm going to have all these services like financial services. Oh, this is going to delay you from getting that car that you want if you spend $5 every day. This is what your heart rate is going to be because you had that caffeine and how many calories you consumed. All this information is going to be your personal data, and it's going to be backwards and forwards. I'm not just consuming, I'm actually sending it back. Yeah. And this is massive amounts of data. It's like exponentially larger than what we're doing today on the 4G LTE network. And you need a 5G network. And there's services to help manage that come along with 5G as well.
That's right. Thank you. Robin, peculiarity, I mean, I've spent 20 years in the connectivity space. I've always believed that connectivity and infrastructure that we provide forms the backbone of any innovation, right? You evolve the network so much that innovation can happen. I would doubt if we would have the likes of Uber if we didn't have a 4G innovation. And we don't know what the 5G innovation will, applications that will spawn. But purely from your perspective, given the bandwidth, throughput, compute, storage requirements that are required or expected out of this network, and Ericsson being a dominant player in the radio and the core, what do you see are the needs of the network today? Is private 5G important? Is a decentralized network like a helium network important? I'm sure a lot of the audience have heard these terms. Can you help put these in perspective for us?
Thanks, Masood. So it eventually boils down to application. I think Mike had a very valid point. It's the applications which drive what they expect from the network. And so be it a private network, which is a standalone isolated network, may be useful for an airport, or edge, which Neil talked about. It's more you deploy a high computing in an area where maybe a gaming zone. This is how the world, this is what people believe the world may evolve. So today we have a lot of shopping areas, big shopping areas. If most of the shopping transitions online, then they may become a big gaming zones. They may be a place where gamers will come together and play the game together. So that will need a very high computing at that space. So it's very difficult to predict what will happen. We as Ericsson do our market research, we do consumer reports, etc. But eventually it's people sitting here who will bring the applications. The moment the applications start coming, the network will evolve. So nobody had designed 4G thinking Uber will happen, right? It happened. So it's the applications which drive. They give their demands on the network. Then engineers think, how do I solve this problem? What can I do to solve the problem? Applications drive, engineers demand, and then solutions. The communication service provider, okay, I have a technology, I have a demand. How do I fit it together so that they meet? So it's an ecosystem which works together. But fundamentally, it is we all human beings who think creative. Let's do this. I'm still wondering how will a technology give me taste. Scent, I can still believe there could be something, but taste is very intrinsic. How will it come? But let's see how it evolves.
Yeah, interesting. We should talk offline. There's some startups I know for working in that space. One question that has been my personal favorite, and it's a little bit technical, but I'll still ask, how far is the edge? Is the edge your mall, or is it a Wi-Fi router sitting at your home?
It's across. So you can have far edge, deep edge, further deep edge. There are definitions of it. How far it is from the central core. It can be sitting at your home. If you live and if you have 15 devices at your home, you may qualify, okay, I need a very small edge sitting at the home itself. So it depends on the application. But from an industry point of view, yes, there are definitions of far, deep, further deep, etc. So it exists.
Wonderful. One exciting part of me monitoring the panel was I get to hear from three speakers who represent the theme we have today, both metaverse from an application perspective, from a network infrastructure perspective. And what we've seen the first half of today is a lot of exciting, a lot of immense opportunities for all of us. I'll take a few minutes to talk about any broad concerns. With every technology innovation, there are concerns about security, privacy, and data privacy. Any of those that are in play in this new world compared to a threat that was in the internet world that we should look out for as technologists, entrepreneurs that need to solve any of those challenges?
I think the security is omnipresence. Whatever we do, there is always a threat because wherever we have good actors, we have bad actors. So there's already somebody trying to see is there a vulnerability? Can I sneak in somewhere? Can I extract some information? So it will evolve as this technology evolves. As our ability to render things evolve, there will always be, can there be a theft? Can somebody steal NFT which I have purchased? Is it possible? So I hope not, but there's a similar conference going on. Okay, how do we do all that stuff? So we are on the positive, creative side of it. So there is a threat, but I'm confident that industry will evolve. They have always evolved. We have always been a step ahead, so we'll continue.
I think there's a threat, but I think there's opportunities. So there's also going to be a digital twin of myself. And that's the digital version that I'm going to put out there that's going to be in this metaverse or this next space. And I can control what information is going out there. And also, even personally, I don't need my demographic information. I don't need my personal identification information anymore. I don't need to share that. That was gathered because they want to market to me. They want to advertise to me. What's going to happen is it's going to be more about a personality. We're going to start creating personality engine. How do I respond? I'm 53 years old, but I still like to go to festivals and everything else. And then somebody else who's 53 years old would rather sit down and watch a hockey game and drink beer with his buddies. Whatever that personality is, that's what's going to be out there, and it's already kind of public information. You don't need to know who I am, where I live. You need to know kind of what I like to do and what my interests are, what I want to be educated on, and so on. And so the more we can keep to ourselves, I think it's going to be on each of us to kind of do the same thing. But once quantum computing comes, blockchain and all that other stuff, we're going to have to find another solution for it.
But that also exposes a lot of threat actors, right? Somebody posing as somebody else. So are there any industry norms that are emerging to?
So has everybody's seen a deep fake? And by the way, probably within the next year or two, everybody's going to be able to create a deep fake. So we've already started using artificial intelligence. By the way, there's people who can recognize it, who are in that space. You know how the skin's moving, the wrinkles move. We don't recognize it, but there's other people out there who can see it, and we're using AI to combat that. So it's going to be even more difficult to fool people because there's going to be AI security tracking, is this person really trying to do something good? And even just if you look at scammers today when they're calling old people and say, you're going to jail, AI should be able to catch that instantly, shut them down, and actually hack into their networks and delete everything. So you're starting to see that come.
I'm glad you made the point because seeing the world the way we see it, AI can be leveraged in a lot of many areas for various benefits, but AI in the cybersecurity space is still, I would say, underdeveloped. And if there are entrepreneurs here who are looking for exciting ideas, cybersecurity in the world of metaverse is a great pain point to solve.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would add is just around two things when you asked about concerns from a security perspective. I think there's also a big opportunity to develop more blockchain technologies that will operate at scale and have sort of that same performance capability as like a 5G network. We haven't seen that to date. I mean, I think there's like, with the merge of Ethereum and things like that, and Solana, you're starting to see more capabilities around being able to secure and use smart contracts, at scale with low latency. But it's still not there, and you haven't really seen any adoption at an enterprise level. So I think there's big opportunities there. I think the other thing that's really important for us, for this technology to take off, is the devices. So the handsets are there, but this isn't always the best type of device for metaverse experiences. And if you look at a lot of the roadmaps that you see from the Metas of the world or others, there aren't a lot of 5G capabilities that exist today, and there doesn't look like there is going to be a lot in the near term as well. So, think about Oculus or HoloLens or Magic Leap. These are not 5G devices. And so we need to see, and I actually met with Qualcomm this week and sort of told them, like, hey guys, like, we need you guys to get going if we want to see this metaverse take off and really take advantage of 5G. We're going to need to see chipsets come down, that are secure, that are low cost, that can be put into any form factor, and then you can really start to see, these experiences take advantage of the 5G networks.
Thank you so much. One last question on the concerns topic is, given the amount of compute, storage, networking, infrastructure, development, advancement that needs to happen for make this reality, any concerns on environment? And I heard that to mint one Bitcoin, you have to spend huge amount of compute power. Is that something that that the team here can innovate upon in terms of environmental concerns?
I mean, yeah, for sure. And I'll, maybe a better question for Ericsson, but from our perspective, I think back to the AI piece, 100% we're not optimizing, energy consumption on the network right now, and better AI capabilities that will allow us to really kind of optimize performance will help us bring down both not just our carbon footprint, but also our energy costs. And we know that bandwidth demands are only increasing, and these types of applications are going to drive more compute, more networking capabilities. So I think there is lots of opportunities in that space. It's definitely something that we're pretty focused on, and I think it's been great to have a lot of these ESG sort of frameworks put in place to help us sort of achieve something like sustainability targets.
We recently announced a partnership with one of the universities in Canada to drive the energy consumption down in systems. So when we build the new core system, that's one of the criteria. It's almost a non-functional requirement that how do you continuously drive the amount of compute it needs? How do you continuously drive down the amount of energy it consumes? So that's a driving factor, because you cannot have this entire earth filled with data centers. That's impossible. There has to be a point where you bring down. So at least for this audience, a lot of opportunity. Ericsson as a company works with universities and research. We try to figure out what's the best way, what's the best form factor, what's the best consumption. So that work will continue. And as I said, it's a non-functional requirement. Nobody consciously thinks about it, but that's something which we always work to see how do we drive it down.
Everybody thinks everybody thinks it's crypto that's actually stealing all the resources. It was, but now it's actually machine learning and AI. So if you try to go get the GPU on the cloud, it's being consumed because we keep creating more machine learning opportunities, more AI opportunities, and it's consuming all the GPUs. And they run 24/7 nonstop. Actually, what you're going to start to see, so we all understand what a rideshare Uber service is. You're going to start to see services come out where I can take advantage of other people's compute. So we have a whole bunch of compute sitting in our pockets right now that is not being consumed, right? And so even in my PC sitting at home or my laptop, will we be able to take advantage of all this compute that's sitting there around everybody else? Hence another reason why you need 5G networks if you're going to be connecting all this compute together as well.
No.
Reminds me of SETI. Anybody who's old enough will remember that. I don't know, do we ever find any extraterrestrial yet? Or I don't know what happened to that project, but I remember you used to leave for those that aren't old enough, you would basically leave your computer on and you would use some of the compute, and I think they were doing some space exploration with your CPU capacity. Yeah. So that was kind of what Mike is talking about. So it'll be very interesting to see the evolution of that.
Yeah, what I'm glad to hear at the end of this conference is that I remember when Khadar put this conference together, I said, why have you missed AI in this ecosystem? And I was hoping through the course of these conversations, the importance of AI in cybersecurity, in managing compute, in managing infra will come through, and I'm glad it came through in this panel. In the interest of time, we'll probably open this up for questions from the audience. I'm sure we covered a lot of ground, right from a layman's perspective to metaverse to the applications perspective, network and operator perspective. But if there are questions that we can help answer, we'd love to take on a few questions before we wrap up. How much time do we have?
Our break is from 11 to 11:30, but I think it's very important to give the audience an opportunity to ask questions, both to the panel members and also the first two speakers that we still have here in the room. If you have any questions, go up to any one of those mics, take turns, one after the other, and please ask your
Why don't you
questions.
join us? It'll be great to have you both as well, if you don't mind. Come on.
After the Q&A period, we will be breaking for coffee for about 20 minutes, and please be back here sharp at 11:30. Don't be shy. Come on up, ask your questions.
Yep, love to hear it. Especially the youngsters, if you have. Okay, anyway.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, so thanks for the great presentation. So Lauren and David, thanks so much. I have a presentation this afternoon, and now it's the metaverse explanation is done. Thank you. I have a question regarding government's involvement. Anything they should do to make sure that metaverse in Canada is right on time and we're not late compared to other countries?